I think we got it. So, inshallah, continuing from there. So as I said, you know, he died from cirrhosis or the effects of cirrhosis. And then, in the meantime, there are several things that were going on at the same time. So you have this going on in Makkah and Medina Munawwara. And then what you have is in Kufa itself, as we mentioned, you know, before Imam Hussein al-Islam takes that step to go to Kufa, he receives several hundred letters from the people of Kufa inviting him, promising their support to him, and, you know, taking a lead, and several thousand people, when Muslim bin Aqil came, giving allegiance to him at the hands of Muslim bin Aqil, and promising to lay down their lives and their wealth in his defense. And of course, you know, when Ibn Ziyad came, the whole picture changes. So, as we know, you know, of course, when Imam Hussein al-Islam, when he arrives in Kufa, or in Karbala, which is close to Kufa, you know, none of that help materializes for two reasons. One is that a lot of these people, like most people, worldly people, they went back on, you know, on their word, you know, because their lives were threatened or their wealth was threatened. And this is one of the things that you see throughout history. People that have a lot, you know, it's very easy for the governments to manipulate them because they just threaten them, oh, we'll just take away your wealth. Yeah. And video's not coming?
No.
There should be like a video number 2. Should be a part 2.
I clicked on the one that's live right now, but it's still pretty short.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it coming? It is. Yeah, there is something that is coming through. So we'll sort that out later on. And Ara, Pushlo, ask. Huh? Huh?
Different name.
It's got. Okay, it's there somewhere. We'll sort it out later, inshallah. So anyway, so you have, again, you know, wealthy people are easy to manipulate. Poor people don't have anything to lose except their lives. And if the poverty isn't to the extent that they feel like, you know, they're on the verge of death, then they can also be manipulated. You know, you threaten their lives. And so this is what happened with the majority of these people. And this is why you see a lot of them actually coming in the army that Ibn Ziyad sends against Imam Hussein al-Salam. You know, this army of Yazid. So many of them. But you had people who were sincere. And these are the people, again, Ibn Ziyad, you know, the reason he was appointed governor and the reason he was, you know, sought out for this task was he, from a political standpoint, was no one's fool. He understood politics, he understood how to manipulate situations, and how to manipulate people, and he also understood people's psychology. So he knew who he could buy, he knew who he could threaten, but he also knew who he couldn't buy and couldn't threaten. So those were the people that he ended up putting under house arrest, or arrest in general. And amongst these was a person by the name of Sulaiman bin Surad. Sulaiman bin Surad, radiallahu anhu, who was a companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a supporter of the father of Imam Hussein al-Islam, Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh, in the wars during his Khilafah. He actually was, he's questioned whether he was in the Battle of the Camel, definitely was in the Battle of Siffin. He was one of those who did not lay down his weapons in the Battle of Siffin like the majority of the army of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu did, and was against the arbitration, but was a supporter of Ali. So when Ali radiallahu anhu made these steps, he was not going to do anything or say anything against him, because he understood where his loyalties laid, and he understood that supporting Ali radiallahu anhu was supporting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, same thing, when Imam Hassan al-Islam made the agreement, same thing, he wasn't really happy with it, but he accepted it. And so now, when this situation arose, his was one of the first letters to reach Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and yet he's also the one who Ibn Ziyad is one of the first people who's placed under arrest, because he could command a good following in general, but again, life and wealth, people sell their souls for that. He is again a companion of Rasulullah. So at the time of Karbala, he's in his 90s. So he was in his 90s already. And when Imam Hussein al-Islam is martyred, he secretly, because Ibn Ziyad is still the governor of Kufa, anyone who voices their support of the actions of Imam Hussein al-Islam will also be executed, or tortured, or various other things that they would do. So he, in secret, starts organizing certain people, and they would also secretly go to the grave of Imam Hussein al-Islam and voice their repentance. And this is why they became known as Thawabin. This is where you will eventually, people from this eventually later on will become, the Asna Ashara Shias, the Twelvers. And so you're going to get aspects of modern-day Shiaism from this. Even though, again, he is a companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but teachings get distorted. Intentions get distorted. Person's doing something with one intention and somebody distorts it to another intention. This is where you get the people that, kind of beat themselves over what happened with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He, of course, is simply going there, crying, asking for forgiveness, repenting for what happened. Even though he, again, if he had been physically able, he would have been there with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But he's under arrest, so he can't move. He will, when Abdullah ibn Zubair is rising up in Makkah, this weakens Banu Umayyah, and now they're having to redirect forces and armies and generals and governors, and this gives Suleiman radiallahu anhu an opportunity to come out more openly against Banu Umayyah, and so he also organizes this army, but just like the story of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah throughout history, those who are truly on the right way, everybody promises, oh yeah, I'm with you, but when time comes, nobody shows up. And so he has 16,000 people who have promised to support him. I mean, he actually has a registry of names. 16,000 people from Kufa, Basra, and a couple of other places. And so now the plan is to go and attack one of the armies of Banu Umayyah And of course, when they leave Kufa and they come to a designated place where they're all supposed to meet, only 4,000 people show up. So 1/4 of the people that promised show up. He waits there for a few days, and after nobody showing up, no one else showing up, the rest of the army is saying, oh, we need to wait a little bit longer. And he says, no, we need to continue on. We don't have time to wait for them. So then he proceeds, and because he didn't wait like the rest of them wanted, 1,000 of them also abandoned him. So he moves forward with 3,000 men, and his argument was that the only way that we can atone for not supporting Imam Hussein in Islam as he should have been supported is to give our lives up. That is the only way. And he takes this from the Quran, where we see Bani Israel, when they disobeyed Musa al-Islam and they worshipped the calf, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the only way for them to atone is for them to kill each other. And this is what they did. And this is what Sulaiman radiallahu anhu says, Sulaiman bin Surad radiallahu anhu says, that the only way we can atone for this, the true atonement for this, is to lay down our lives for the cause of Imam Hussein al-Islam, which is what he literally does. So at the age of 96, he is martyred, fighting against Banu Umayyah. And so this is one, and this weakened Banu Umayyah in that area, which allows Abdullah ibn Zubair to continue to gain support and to push Banu Umayyah back. And this again, eventually, Abdullah ibn Zubair will basically control all of the Muslim empire, with a very small part of Sham still under the control of Banu Umayyah. And because also the other thing that happened, as we mentioned, amongst Banu Umayyah, you have the civil war, internal civil war. Marwan bin Hakam eventually becomes the king. He lives another 9 months. He dies. He was already in his 80s by the time he became king. His son Abdul Malik becomes the king then. Abdul Malik is interesting. When he receives the news that he has been made the king, he's reading the Quran. And when he's told that, oh, you are the king, he says to the Quran that our connection now is gone. Because he knows he can't oppress people if he's going to follow the Quran. So that's why he makes the statement right there to the Quran that, oh, we have no connection anymore. So then he becomes the king. He will eventually find amongst his soldiers Hajjaj bin Yusuf, the tyrant, who will eventually come and attack Makkah Mukarramah, as we talked about last week, and Abdullah ibn Zubair will be martyred. And when he's martyred, of course, when they're killing him, when they're martyring him, when he's becoming shaheed, they're saying Allahu Akbar. Same thing, the same people today, same mindset. When they're killing the Muslims, Allahu Akbar. And you see this. It's funny, when they're killing the Muslims, they're saying Allahu Akbar. When they're destroying the maqbara, the graves of the believers, when they're destroying the mazarat, what are they doing when they're shooting the rocket launcher? Allahu Akbar. That's what they're saying. Same exact mindset, no different. So Abdullah ibn Zubair, of course, is martyred. When he's martyred, Hajjaj comes to his mother, Asma bint Abu Bakr, radiallahu anha, who at this time is 100 years old, or right around 100. She has lost her sight, and he's giving his condolences to her, which is hilarious, because hilarious from the point of just sad historically. The same guy who just killed her son is now giving her condolences. And as he's giving her condolences, her response is, because what they had done with him, with Abdullah ibn Zubair, was that they killed him, they martyred him. And I'll go into other details on this next week. I want to cover a couple of other things first that come later. They martyr him, they behead him, they send his head to Sham, because the kings want to see the heads of the ones that they've ordered to be killed. And so they sent the head to Sham. They take his body and crucify it on the main road coming into Makkah. And the purpose behind this was that eventually the body will rot and it will smell and people will curse him. This is a person who, well documented, who had drank the blood of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had, would practice cupping as well as phlebotomy, where you let out blood. And so one time when he did this, he gives the blood to Abdullah ibn Zubair, who's around 9 years old at that time, and tells him to go and throw it away. He comes back, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asks him, what did you do with it? Which tells us right away Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew what he did with it, otherwise why he's asking him. If I give you something and I say, okay, go throw this away, and then you come back, I'm going to assume you threw it away, if I don't know. But if I know, so what did you do with it? What did you do with it? And that's what he said. He said, what did you do with it? He said, Ya Rasulullah, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, your blood. I thought, where can I throw it where it won't be disrespected? If I throw it on the ground, somebody may walk over it. What can I do with it? So I drank it. Rasulullah says to him, he says that my blood and the fire of hell can never be together. So literally giving him bashara, the glad tidings of paradise. He says, my blood and the fire of hell can never be together. But woe unto the people for what you will do to them, and woe unto you for what the people will do to you. So he rose up against, and at this time he's like 73 years old when he was martyred. He walked out with the sword. All his army, I won't say all, but only a handful of people were left defending him. The rest of his army abandoned him. This is woe unto you for what the people will do to you. They killed him, they crucified his body, and he was hanging there for 30 days, and his body did expand and rupture, but the fragrance that came out of it was better than musk, because he has drank the blood of Rasulullah. And now here, one point to understand, we've been talking about Ahlul Bayt, and this is directly connected to Ahlul Bayt. For the one who drank the blood of Rasulullah says that my blood and the fire of hell can never be together. What about the ones through whose arteries the blood of Rasulullah is running, who are from his blood? What about them? So he's martyred 30 days later, and then they eventually, when now people are praying for him, so this is when Hajjaj has him taken down and buried. But again, the statement here, when he says this to Asma, and this is coming back to what I started out with, he says this is the daughter of Abu Bakr. See, Abdullah ibn Zubair, his father is Muslim, father is companion of Rasulullah. He himself is companion of Rasul, he's Sahabi. His father is Sahabi, not just any Sahabi, his father is Ashir Mubashara, Zubair bin Awam. His mother is Asma bint Abu Bakr. She is Sahabi, the daughter of Abu Bakr. His maternal grandfather is Sahabi, Abu Bakr. His maternal great-grandfather, Abu Qahafa, is Sahabi. His paternal grandmother is Safiya bint Abdul Muttalib, the aunt of Rasulullah. So those who try to justify the existence or the kingship of Yazid, saying that Abdullah ibn Zubair was mistaken when he didn't give him allegiance, like, Abdulaziz bin Baz said, in one of his statements defending Yazid, that, oh, he was mistaken for not giving allegiance to Yazid. People like that themselves are mistaken, that they think that they still have iman. So her response to him is, and the hadiths are authentic hadiths, where she says that if the son of my head if the head of my son was sent to a king in Damascus, what's the big deal in that? Because the head of Yahya al-Islam was given to a prostitute. Yahya al-Islam, when he was martyred, that's what they did. And then she says to him, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that from Banu Thaqif, because Hajjaj is from Banu Thaqif, from Banu Thaqif will come a liar who will declare himself as prophet, and will come a tyrant who will kill the people, a dhalim who will kill the people. And she says, we have seen the liar, and there is no one other than you who fits the tyrant. Meaning you are that tyrant that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about. I'm going to skip over this. So this basically is the martyrdom of Abdullah ibn Zubair is roughly about 73 Hijri. Okay, because he was born the year of Hijrah, the year of Hijrah. So 73 Hijri is his martyrdom. So I'm going to jump over this several years. We're going to come back to this later, but I want to mention this today, and then we'll come back to other aspects in between later. And the reason I keep jumping around is because there's so many things going on at the same time, so many things that are related that happen later on. But it also, if we keep going over stuff, it just makes it easier to remember. Imam Zain al-Abidin, as I mentioned, a few months after Karbala, eventually he's brought back to Medina Munawwara. If you look, he's also blacklisted. So people have a hard time meeting him, because anyone who meets him becomes on the list. Because everybody's being surveilled. You have spies everywhere, just like today. Now they don't have to have physical spies. The cameras do the spying for them. But no different than today. Whatever we're saying, everything, there's spies all over the place. Everything's being taken up and analyzed, and then they choose what to do with whoever. So what Imam Zain al-Abidin does, because people have a hard time meeting him, when he needs to get the message out, is that every year he buys 1,000 slaves. He buys 1,000 slaves. Month of Ramadan, he buys 1,000 slaves. For 1 year, he trains them. Intense course. And then after that year is up, he sends them back. He frees them. He gives them some wealth to be able to get back to where they came from, and to establish themselves there, and to teach Islam. This is the origins of Tasawwuf. He is all the forms of Tasawwuf today, all of the salasil of Tasawwuf come back to him in this way. And as we know, Tasawwuf is the purification of the heart, which we talked about in Friday, that dua of Ibrahim al-Islam, and the acceptance of that dua in Surah Al Imran. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He has done this great favor upon the believers, that He sent this exalted messenger from amongst them who recites the verses, purifies them, teaches them the book and the wisdom, even though the dua was in the opposite order. So the tazkiyah purification has to come first before the understanding of the book and the wisdom. Otherwise, there is no understanding of the book and wisdom. This is why we're in the situation we are, because everybody wants to learn the book and the Quran and the Sunnah without purification, the real purification of the heart. And it doesn't work that way. So, but I want to just mention the revolution of Imam Zayd. So Imam Zayd al-Abidin has a son, Imam Muhammad Baqir. Okay. Imam Muhammad Baqir is the father of Imam Jafar Sadiq. All forms of knowledge come back to Imam Jafar Sadiq, whether it's physics, astronomy, anatomy, biology, chemistry, all of the sciences, whether it's the religious sciences, fiqh, tajweed, tartil, the seerah, every aspect of the Islamic sciences, hadith, usul, all of those things, and every aspect of what we consider modern science or physical or the worldly sciences, they all come back to him. Everyone's teacher, he is the teacher of everybody at some point. Okay. So, but Imam Muhammad Baqir also has another son named Imam Zayd. Different mother than Imam Jafar Sadiq, and a lot younger. So Imam Jafar Sadiq is like there's so Imam Zayd is much younger than Imam Jafar Sadiq, a lot younger. So year 122, I guess I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to cover some important points on Imam Zayd. Imam Zayd, according to Imam Jafar Sadiq, is the most knowledgeable person from Ahlul Bayt about the Sunnah of Rasulullah, and no one upon the Sunnah of Rasulullah more than Imam Zayd. Imam Abu Hanifa gave allegiance to Imam Zayd. So his bay'ah is with Imam Zayd. His Imam Abu Hanifa's fiqh teacher is Imam Hamad. So in fiqh, he studied under Hamad bin Sulaiman, who is the student of Ibrahim Nakhi, who is the student of his uncle Alqama bin Qais, who is the student of Abdullah ibn Masud, radiallahu anhu. In spirituality and in allegiance as far as leadership, Imam Zayd is the leader of Imam Abu Hanifa. And not only did Imam Abu Hanifa give him allegiance, he supported him in every aspect. Financially, he gave him 30,000 dirham. So 30,000 dirham, 3 dirham at that time bought a cow, $1,000 a cow, 10 million bucks, roughly. He gave it to him as a gift to prepare his army against Banu Umayyah. Imam Abu Hanifa wanted to join the army, but Imam Zayd said no. He said, we need people, who will continue the process of learning and teaching. This is why not all of Ahlul Bayt were involved in the revolution of Imam Zayd or the revolution of Imam Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiya, because each one played their role. Depending on what was needed at the time. Because people try to say that, Imam Jafar Sadiq, he wasn't involved in these revolutions. Yeah, he wasn't involved directly, but indirectly he was, because if you look at his students, they were also involved in these revolutions. Imam Zayd got an army ready, 8,000 people from Kufa. And before the army left, Imam Abu Hanifa made a statement or made an announcement to his students saying that whoever should go and join him. And one of the students of Imam Abu Hanifa who went and joined Imam Zayd's army was the only son of his parents. And so his mother comes running to Imam Abu Hanifa saying, look, I only have one son, and on your saying he went and joined the army of Imam Zayd, and I'm afraid what will happen to him, and if he dies, then our lineage will be cut. We don't have any other children, and we won't have any other lineage. And that son, you know, of course, was young and had not gotten married yet and didn't have children. So Imam Abu Hanifa's response to her was that, don't you want that your son's name should be amongst the list of the martyrs of Badr? So he's telling about the importance of the steps that Imam Zayd is taking. And I know I'm jumping around here a lot. Like I said, inshallah, in the next couple of weeks, I'll tie this back together. So then, when Imam Zayd leaves Kufa, Hisham bin Abdul Malik, who is the leader at that time, has an army sent against Imam Zayd of 20,000 men. Imam Zayd sets out with 8,000 men. When they leave Kufa, right at the outskirts of Kufa, they stop. Generals from within his army come to Imam Zayd and say, look, you know, we're willing to give our lives and our wealth for you, under the condition that you do tabarra, meaning you curse Shaykhain meaning Abu Bakr and Umar, radiallahu anhuma. And Imam Zayd's response is, how can I curse a people about whom I have not heard anything good? I have not heard anything but good from my forefathers. And so they say, well, you know, then, you know, we're leaving. So he's left with 313 men, just like in Badr. And they will all eventually be martyred. They give advice to Imam Zayd that, you know, we know we're going to be killed. We know there's no way we're going to survive this, but we want you to get out and continue. And he says, you know, your advice is good and your advice is sincere, but I can't accept it. And they say, why? If you acknowledge it being good advice and sincere advice, he says, because I come from a lineage where you have the example of going into battle, you have no example of leaving the battle. And he is eventually martyred. They will do the same thing with him when they find his body, and I'll go over this next week. I'm going to end in a few minutes here, inshallah. As I said, you know, inshallah, 3 o'clock we'll make dhuhr, but I want to give people time to you know, make wudu and take care of some things, inshallah, before we make dhuhr. So then they find his grave, they dig him up, they cut off his head, send it to Damascus, and then they crucify his body. And his body is left being crucified for 4 years, which in itself tells you that it did not rot. You know, you hang a body up in the sun in the desert for 4 years, yeah, it's going to fall apart. They left it hanging for 4 years, and what would happen would be that they would position it a certain way, and slowly over time, his body would face the Qibla. And then they would move it back, and then again the same thing. So after 4 years, the other king that came had it pulled down, and they burned the body. But again, these revolution after revolution, which will finally bring down Banu Umayyah. And we'll get into some of that next week, or at least I'll cover, or superficially cover a part of that next week, which is the revolution of Imam Muhammad Nafs Zakiyah. And that will get into Banu Abbas. But there are other aspects that we need to cover about Ahlul Bayt before. So like I said, the next few weeks we're going to be jumping around a lot, because I want to give an overview of some things before we come back and tie it all together, inshallah. Any questions? I'm going to end for the moment today here. Any questions?
How we get Imam saying his march? I know you mentioned before, but I forgot what year Imam was saying march.
Oh, what year was Imam Hussein al-Islam martyred? The year 61 Hijri, Muharram of 61. So literally not even 50 years after Rasulullah.
So what year is it? About 600 or something?
Oh, this year, I mean, that was trying to think, 632, around 680?
680.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I think slightly before 680, but somewhere around there. Yeah. So, you know, but like I said, you know, people could not even fathom. This wasn't, again, not even 50 years after Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that something like this could happen. Yeah. Any other questions?
So there was Umayyi, then Abbasi,
Yeah.
then...
Yeah, you know, like we talked about before, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the Khilafah is for 30 years, after which will come a cruel monarchy, after which will come the age of tyrants. So we're in the age of tyrants now, after which will come Mahdi and Isa alayhis salam. So the monarchy ended with the Ottomans. Monarchy begins with Banu Umayyah. So you have Banu Umayyah, and 132 Hijri is when Banu Umayyah will get overthrown, and then you have Banu Abbas. Banu Abbas will be there for, I guess, like a little over 400 years. Banu Umayyah, not even 90 years. Okay. But during the time of Banu Abbas, you know, like in Banu Umayyah, you have one government. It's not necessarily an Islamic government, but it's a government ruling over the Muslims. Banu Abbas, you're going to start seeing where the Muslim empire is getting broken up into different kingdoms. So you'll end up with, you know, the Seljuks, with the Mamluks, and all of these other kingdoms. But you'll still have Banu Abbas acknowledged by all of these other kingdoms as a central authority, so to say, even though they don't listen to them, but they still acknowledge them as having some position. And then after Banu Abbas, you know, you're going to have all these other smaller kingdoms. Then you're not really going to have a large kingdom that's covering most of the Muslim lands until you get the Ottomans.
The Ottomans, the last one?
Yeah.
So they ended what, 1911?
1911, right around there. Yeah, so that was the whole purpose of World War I, was to destroy them, to give way to what they've done to Masjid al-Aqsa. Because one of the last kings of the Ottomans, Abdul Hamid II, was offered several $1 billion to hand over Jerusalem, and he refused. So then they figured out, let's get the war going, and then we'll take it. And that's what they did. So that was the whole purpose of World War I.
So Ottoman Empire run by the Turkish, right?
Yes. Yep, the Turks. Yeah. So the whole purpose of World War I was to take Jerusalem out of the control of the Muslims. World War II had a different purpose, in the same lines, and that's when they transferred that over to what the initial purpose actually was. So, inshallah, I'll end here today. Inshallah, we will have, at least at the moment, I have intention of having class next week. We won't have the class following week because that will either be Eid day or the day before Eid. And then we will, kind of resume afterwards, inshallah. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand, to give our, fill our hearts with His love, His true love, and the true love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love, and may He protect and give strength to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, and may He give strength to the oppressed over the oppressors. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.